The Boston Bruins signed Jack Studnicka to a 2-year contract extension on Saturday. The first year is two-way in nature, and it begs the question, who exactly is playing center for the Bruins in 2022-23? Going to talk about that and more on today's episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoke to Be, as well as take a look around the NHL. Thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your day, every day. Podcast is free and available on all platforms, as well as on YouTube. So please do smash that subscribe button on your podcast app and the YouTube channel, so that you never miss a thing. The YouTube channel is chock full of bonus clips as well on all your latest Bruins breaking news. If you are on social media, you can find the podcast at Locked NHL Bruins, and you can find me, my dad jokes, hockey tweets at Ian C. McLaren. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online, where the game starts. I hope you all had a great weekend. I returned from vacation in Montreal late last week and posted an episode on Friday talking about John Gruden and his desire to be an assistant coach with the Bruins and how that is all fitting together. YouTube people can see me rocking the Expos shirt today. Condolences to you Red Sox fans who had a rough weekend with the visiting Toronto Blue Jays in town. As that was happening, the Bruins announced a new contract for restricted free agent forward Jack Studnicka. The team signed Studnicka to a 2-year contract with an annual NHL cap hit of $762,500. It's a two-way deal for the 2023 season and a one-way deal for the 2023-24 season. Now, there's a couple things to note about this contract. Again, 2 years, $1.525 million at the NHL level. What's interesting is that if you look at his cap-friendly page, you see his minor league salary. So if you were to play in the AHL, his salary is $200,000. That is almost equal to what he's made total in the AHL over the past 3 seasons, where he was making $70,000 per season at the AHL level. So while there's no assurance that he will make his NHL salary this season, the Bruins, in a way, taking care of Studnicka by paying him $200,000 if he were to play at the AHL level. So that's very interesting. I'm not exactly sure if Studnicka is waiver exempt. I believe he would have to pass through waivers in order to be sent to the AHL. So that is a factor as well. Just looking up here on Cap Friendly. Let's give that a quick search. Jack Studnicka. I don't believe he is waiver exempt. You have to play, let's see here. You're exempt for 5 seasons and under 150 games. So perhaps he is waiver exempt, as he has only played 37 games, and his NHL contract kicked in 3 years ago. So I guess that gives us an indication that he is indeed waiver exempt. I'll get clarification on that at some point. Anyways, what we do know is that he will be paid handsomely at the AHL level should he indeed be sent down. Now, Studnicka, 23, he appeared in 15 NHL games for the Bruins last season, 3 assists total. In 41 games with the Providence Bruins, he had 10 goals, 25 assists for 35 points. So almost a point per game player at the AHL level. Of course, he was selected in the 2017 NHL entry draft, second round, 53rd overall that year. So that's very interesting. Just going back to the waiver question, looking at the Boston Bruins waiver exempt players, and let's go down here to the S's. Studnicka, I do not believe is waiver exempt, so he would have to be passed through waivers in order to be assigned to the AHL level. And if that were to happen, then he will make $200,000. So that begs the question, who will be playing center for the Boston Bruins come opening night? We're going to talk about that in a moment, but first a quick word about BetOnline. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and golf. BetOnline is the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today at BetOnline, where the game starts. So we have established that Jack Studnicka has signed a 2-year contract extension with the Bruins. The first year is 2-way in nature. The other is a 1-way contract. If he is sent down to the AHL, he'll make $200,000. So the Bruins giving him some assurance that even if he's not getting NHL playing time, he'll get paid better than he did in previous years in the AHL. But he's not waiver exempt, meaning he would have to be put on the waiver wire in order to be reassigned. Could be snagged on the waiver wire. So, Studnicka, center, who has played some wing in the past. And it leads us to ask who exactly will be playing center for the Bruins next season. Right now, they have, or they could put together a full roster, and they have $4.76 million in cap space. The hope, of course, is that they will sign Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci, 2 contracts, most likely bonus-laden deals, but they're probably looking to shed some salary in order to avoid those overage hits on next season's cap. If you give guys a low base salary with performance bonuses, then those bonuses are paid the next year and go against the cap. As of right now, Boston's center depth would be Charlie Coyle playing on the first line. You would have, I would imagine, Jack Studnicka playing on the second line. Thomas Nosek on the third line. And then Trent Frederick on the fourth line. That's without having signed Pavel Zacha, who can play center. Ideally, I think they would want him on the left side in the absence of Brad Marchand. But those are your surefire centers at the moment. Coyle, Studnicka, Nosek, Frederick. Not ideal by any stretch of the imagination. The Bruins need to shed some cap space and need to get at least Bergeron, ideally Bergeron and Krejci signed. The best place for that cap to be shed is on the blue line, where their fifth and sixth defensemen are making $3 million, 3.6% of the cap each for your fifth and sixth highest paid defensemen, Derek Forbort and Mike Riley. So that needs to change. Riley, of course, along with Grzelcyk, injured to begin the season. So that perhaps is hurting any possible trades that could take place. So kind of dire at the moment when you look at Boston's depth chart and their situation heading into opening night with the current roster of players. But of course, we're all holding out hope that Bergeron and Krejci will be signed pretty soon. Having said that, it was interesting yesterday. It was Patrice Bergeron's 37th birthday, and the Bruins put out a happy birthday Bergie tweet video with a very grizzled looking Bergeron with him in uniform, and you can see the left side of the C. Now, do teams generally wish a happy birthday to unrestricted free agents? Not really. And so that seems to be a good sign that Bergeron will indeed be back in the fold. Looking at Cat Friendly's page, they have Coyle, Zacha, Nosek, Steen as Boston's centers, with Frederick on the fourth line, Studnicka the third line right winger. So you can mix things up a little bit. Zacha, of course, still remains restricted free agent, scheduled for arbitration on August 11th. However, that could change, as Steve Conroy of the Boston Herald tweeted on Sunday that he had been in touch with Zacha's agent, Darren Ferris, who texted the Herald that a new deal for Zacha should be completed in short order. Lots going on. That was on Saturday. We're here Monday morning. Still nothing official. But maybe we'll get some clarity on that at some point this week. So there's a lot of moving pieces here for the Boston Bruins. They need a new deal for Zacha. David Pastrnak still eligible to sign a contract extension. We saw Matthew Tkachuk get $9.5 million from the Florida Panthers in a surprise late night deal between the Calgary Flames and Florida Panthers on Friday. Is that a comparable for Pastrnak? Maybe. Pasternak's a bit older, more prolific goal scorer. Matthew Tkachuk coming off a 100-point season. We're going to talk about that trade here in a moment and what it means for the Atlantic Division. But again, they need to get a Pastrnak extension. Zacha re-signed. They need to get, ideally, some space shed in order to sign Bergeron at the very least. Krejci, there's reports that he's going to sign a contract, but nothing official as of yet, of course. Keep it locked on Boston Bruins for all the latest when it comes to potential signings, trades, and the like. And like I mentioned off the top, the YouTube channel is where you want to go for breaking news clips. I'll be sure to post those on there for sure. Thank you so much again for making Locked On Bruins your first listen every day. Now make your second listen the Locked On NHL podcast. Locked On experts give you a daily 30-minute podcast on all things NHL all year long. Stay up to date on everything in the hockey world with the Locked On NHL podcast, your daily 30-minute NHL show. So like I mentioned, Matthew Tkachuk sent to the Florida Panthers on Friday in a deal involving Jonathan Huberdeau. I believe it's very rare that you see 100-point players traded for one another. The Flames get the added bonus of receiving Mackenzie Weegar, who jumps to the top of their defensive depth chart. Now, the trick here is that Tkachuk signed long-term with the Panthers. Huberdeau and Weegar can be unrestricted free agents at the end of this coming season. So there's no assurances for the Flames that they'll have these two guys long-term. In the short term, this season, they get the better end of the deal, in my estimation. And if Huberdeau and Weegar aren't going to sign, they can also flip them at the trade deadline and get some pretty good assets. So in terms of dealing from a position of relative weakness, everybody knew Tkachuk wasn't going to sign long-term. Everybody knew that he was going to be traded. Brad Treliving, GM there, doing very well to get high-end assets in return. And again, even if they're not going to stay, he can flip them at the deadline. Overall, I think it makes the Panthers a bit weaker, which is good news for Atlantic Division teams. They do get Tkachuk for Huberdeau, which kind of balances out, but you're losing Weegar, who is a very good defenseman for them, arguably their best, especially when Aaron Ekblad was out with an injury. So, good news for the Bruins there. Going to take a look later this week at the Atlantic Division, what those teams have done so far, and how the Bruins stack up, with the Senators improving, Red Wings arguably improving, changes in Toronto, Tampa. We're going to do like a summer Atlantic Division power rankings just to see where exactly things fit at the current moment. That's it for this episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, my friends. I hope you all had a great weekend despite the Red Sox stumbles. What did we do? Went and saw Thor, Love and Thunder on Friday, which I highly recommend. I liked it a lot better than Doctor Strange. And, of course, I burned through Squid Game over the weekend as well. I had never seen that. Surprisingly emotional watching that. There was a lot of good character development, storylines, and I really did enjoy watching that despite the very traumatic scenes involved. Going to catch up on Westworld today, and I'm going through a rewatch of Silicon Valley as well, which is always hilarious. This week we're going to have 5 episodes. I'm hoping to get a pretty prominent guest on the podcast when it comes to recent Bruins news. So keep an eye on that. And then once the calendar turns to August, we're going to do 3 episodes per week. So yeah, keep it locked all week long on the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast for all the latest on the black and gold. Hopefully we get some big news in terms of the center depth and resolving this lingering Krejci Bergeron situation. Thanks so much for tuning in, friends. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow here on the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day.